Before we begin, thank you very much to Ratrina for joining my Patreon campaign. Thank you very much. Means the world to me. Thank you guys for the support. It has been incredible lately. And yeah, I've got shout outs still to go. We're going to fill out most of the month with shout outs because you people are nuts. And I love you for it. I want to get right into this one because this is, again, me loving to speculate, but it's also me being very observational. So, now that we have so many leaks out there for Legacy, we essentially know just about every toy that's coming out this year and next year. It's kind of ridiculous. Now, of course, there's going to be repaints, remolds, reissues, etc., that we don't calculate on. And of course, there's still plenty of things to surprise us. You know, Hasbro just dropped Origins Jazz on us out of nowhere. No leaker had any word about it. We never knew the toy was going to happen. And now it's already being found. People are already finding it. So it's going to be something. So there's always room for surprise. So this could be completely off base and all this works. But now that we have so many things leaked, I can't help but notice that for a line called Legacy that is supposedly going to be celebrating the entire history of Transformers, there are certain sects and certain series that seem to be passed over for the most part, even though some of them were mainline series and toys. So this is just me going through a few of those, and we're going to figure out who I think should be in Legacy based on series that aren't in Legacy yet. And that is going to start with Transformers Energon. Now, I hear you say, I hear what you're saying. Yes, I am absolutely well aware that an Energon toy did come up in future listings for Legacy. An Energon Megatron, to be exact. However, that Energon Megatron is just a core class. You know, and even here's the thing. Even if it's only even if there is just one lingering toy or something from Energon, it's a main series, you know? I am always all about Cybertron getting its due and having more Cybertron toys. Armada right now is in something of its mini revolution where, Armada Optimus is coming out and we already have Hotshot and Starscream. We know a Megatron's on the way too. So a little bit of justice for the series in between. I think that definitely has room for more than one toy to come out. Now, if it was me and if I had my way, the toy would be Prowl, which is one of my favorite designs from Energon. However, I will fully admit, you can't really do a blue and white IndyCar style toy without it just looking like some weird version of Mirage. It doesn't help that the movies now have their own weird version of Mirage. So I think this one would be a little bit lost in the mix, even though I really personally love the design. The ones that are more likely, okay, we do have to admit, one of them would be Ironhide. Hold your pitchforks and torches. Don't worry. Keep in mind, this would be a very different style of Energon Ironhide. Number one, no annoying sound box. So that big light bar on top of those big floodlights probably be shrunken down a little bit and wouldn't have the speaker hanging off of them either. But it also wouldn't have the Power Links gimmick most likely. It would probably just be Energon Ironhide. Given that, I don't see where the toy would really be that bad, really. So that's the most likely candidate just because he was the primary kid appeal in the show. But for the one that I think is most likely, the one that I think would also be very much possible, as well as one I'd really like to see again, that would be Rodimus, for a few reasons. Number one, we haven't used the name Rodimus in a while. I really wouldn't mind it being relegated to referring to just this version of the character now that we have Hot Rod back and we have Rodimus Prime back. We don't have to do this weird naming convention thing for trademark reasons anymore. So yeah, I would absolutely love to see Rodimus just be Energon Rodimus. And hey, look at Holiday Optimus Prime. A little bit of retooling and a 180-degree rotation on those legs. You've already got half of this figure done. I could absolutely see that. Remove the trailer, sell it as a Voyager, retool it so it has the right details in robot mode. It's mostly already there. It's mostly already good and ready to go. So that one is absolutely possible, and I would love to see it. Love to see it. Another line that we've been talking about already, we talked about it earlier this week, and we are going to be talking a lot about it thanks to you and your support over on Patreon. Beast Machines. There's no representation right now for Beast Machines in Legacy. And again, it's a primary line. Now, understandable, Beast Machines flopped. We've talked about all the reasons why it flopped. But there are gaps and there are certain things that I think fans would still take well to. We've seen where things like the Generations Tankor was a popular figure, even though it was not nearly the size Tankor needed to be. But there are certain ways that you can actually do characters from this series and still have it go over well with fans. Now, the first thing you're going to say, and the first one you're going to cry out for, is Botanica, because she never got a toy in the original toy line. But let's be honest here. If they actually did a Botanica toy today, it would sell horribly, and you know it would sell horribly. You know, it's just not a well-known character anymore. And the toy itself, there's no way that's going to look good to a kid, right? Because we still have to remember, most of the market for Transformers is kids. Even if they're produced based on old characters, they're still trying to make sure they are cool designs that kids are going to see at a toy store and go, oh, I want that one. You know, they don't care. They don't care who Needle Nose is. They don't care who Skyquake is. It's just a cool jet. That's what they're gaining on. That's where they make a lot of their money. More money than we collectors. So, Botanica probably wouldn't work, so probably very unlikely. I don't think she's really ever going to get a toy. And the fact that even a third-party realm has not attempted it should probably tell you that it's not a viable character. No, it's most likely going to be a Cheetor. I don't think it's going to be like, it's not going to be a Supreme Cheetor. I don't even think it's going to be a Voyager Cheetor. You know, it's Beast Machines. I think they would go small just to make sure they avoid any kind of risk that is involved with doing a Beast Machines character. Though I would love to see at the very least a deluxe, you know, where Cheetor could, you know, maybe have some longer limbs and be thinner, but still stable and sturdy enough to actually act as an actual figure, unlike most of his other toys. You know, when the Titanium is your best example of Beast Machines Cheetor, you got problems. You got problems. As for ones I'd really like to see myself, well, it should be no surprise if you watch my previous Beast Machines video. But I will say, one that I didn't mention is, I think we need the Megatron. Mostly because the Megatron is already done, for the most part. Imagine this, and this is crazy, Hasbro will never do this, but hear me out. Commander class. I know! It's not gonna happen. They're not going to stick a Beast Machines character at 80 or 90 bucks. But, hear me out. We already have Dragon Megatron done, right? We already have that figure. So imagine this. We retool those wings so they can fold over and wrap around the robot mode, right? We resculpt it to have all that broken up tech detail exposed on his Dragon mode, right? So you have this independent figure. You have this like broken up, like severely damaged Megatron where it looks like he's literally tried to rip the organics right off of his robotic body. And then you have this ability to fold up just like the original toy did, but it's Commander class. We include with it a display stand with a big arm and his control module overhead. You take that Megatron and you plug it in from the underside. So the head probably wouldn't work, so it'd probably have to be some like gimmicked head that pops up when the toy is inserted. But the rest of it would be fine. You have like a big sturdy display arm that can move the toy around. You have these monitors floating around him. You know, articulated arms hanging off the robe. You know, so you have this ability to make Beast Machines Megatron, but still have a fully functional Transformer inside it. That would be my pitch. It's never going to happen. Far, far simpler to just make Jetstorm as a Voyager class toy and call it a day from there. And I could absolutely see them doing that too. It's far more likely, isn't it? Alright, what other series? What other series have we not really tapped? Well, we do kind of have a little bit of Robots in Disguise representation now. We do know that there is a tow line on the way, but let's be fair. That design is absolutely crowbarred into that figure. They're really doing it just because it is a tow truck, so they're making the tow truck character into this toy. Design-wise, the head is correct, but really nothing else is. It's just not designed anything like the original tow line was. So, it's a compromise. It's a very compromised homage. So I'd love to see it done better, and I'd love to see full commitment into making like an actual RID representation. My personal pick would be X-Brawn. That was my favorite of the Autobot brothers, because Prowl was cool. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't like turn my nose at a Prowl. Sideburn. Ooh, you'd have to clean that toy up a lot. You'd have to clean that toy up so much. But I really think X-Brawn would be the one that I would be into, because he was familiar. Like, the design was familiar enough. It wasn't too kibbly. It wasn't too broken up, but it still had this uniqueness to him. I love this like asymmetrical design he had with one big hammer arm. That's cool. I'd love to see that. The trick to him is they're not going to do just one. If they do, they're going to do like one thing for RID. It's not going to be any of the Autobot brothers, because that would commit them to doing all three of them, and they're not necessarily going to want to put a risk like that out into the world. Because let's remember, RID was also not a huge selling series. It was a stopgap for Armada. So, that does leave us with the obvious Skybite. We got a Skybite in Thrilling 30 in Generations. And it's not a bad toy. It's a good toy. But it's definitely a reimagining of Skybite. It's definitely not his original design. Going back to the original would be a little bit more difficult. He is a very big shell former, as a lot of, late stage Beast Wars things were. He'd be a little bit tricky. He's also coming up with like a satisfying shark mode, because with all that shell, you're not going to be able to make it posable or anything. So, I mean, it's the standout character of the show. Absolutely is. I just don't know if you could get away with it now. I don't know if there's a way to properly do it so it feels like Skybite, right? I think the obvious one here is an Optimus Prime. Would not be a shock at all, and it'd be simple enough to do. We do know that there are people on Hasbro's design team that would love to do more fire trucks, and would love to do a fire truck Optimus Prime again. It was loosely hinted at that they wanted to do RID Prime, but I think they later downplayed that or denied it outright. Either way, this is not terribly unlikely, because even then, there's a few repaint options even. So they could absolutely get away with this. Speaking of the Hasbro designers, there's one, I don't remember their names. I don't remember the names of who it is, but someone that's usually on those panels always pushes for one series in particular to get homages, and that is Machine Wars. I don't know for the life of me why. Because when Bakon did Machine Wars stuff, it tanked. And there was no one that really, even hardcore collectors did not want Machine Wars based stuff. So I don't know how you'd get away with it at mass retail level, especially because most of the Machine Wars stuff is kind of dull in deco. It's very flat colors, not really a whole lot of effort in detail design. It's just very by the numbers. It's very basic. So I'm not quite sure what you would do. With one exception, I don't think anyone would turn down a Machine Wars Starscream. It's the coolest looking figure in the line, I think. And the groundwork is already laid out. We have a Skyquake toy that does take homage from not only Prime, but also the original G1. A little bit of further retooling, and you could absolutely make the G1 Skyquake mold out of the current new toy. And then it's just open bar to do whatever you want. You want to do, you want to do, which one is it? I'm trying to remember the way they phrased it. Okay, so, oh man, I'm blanking on this. It's I want to say King Atlas, but that doesn't sound right. Because it's based on Die Atlas. Maybe that is it, and I'm just freaking out. You know the one, the universe repaint. I'm not going to rack my brain over it, because you guys are just going to correct me in the comments anyway. But yeah, this is one of the ones that I'm just waiting for I'm waiting for that Skyquake to become. So here's a universe that no one's really thinking about when it comes to generations and legacy and things that really should be homaged at this point. Marvel. Because it is one of the longest running fictions in Transformers. It ran a whole lot longer than the cartoon did and went into a lot greater detail and featured a lot more characters. For many people, the Marvel continuity is still the Transformers continuity. And we don't really do anything to homage it, which is mostly because almost everything in there appeared in the original G1 toy line or cartoon virtually the same way. There is, however, one exception, and the toy just became available to use again. That being Soundwave. I love Soundwave in these colors. I love this, like, this grape purple and like slight blue sheen to its gray. I think it looks super cool. I would love to see that new Soundwave toy they did for Netflix redone like this and given a little bit of a push to Marvel. And it's good to do it when, right now, because we actually have like Hasbro with the Marvel license. They could literally just put the Marvel logo on it because they have, because they have that connection. So it's a great little tie-in piece. And then there's the continuity I don't think anyone's thinking about because they think the base is covered, right? There's one continuity that has had no representation in Legacy, and it's a huge continuity, but we have practically nothing. Nothing immediately jumps to mind anyway. And that is the live action movies. And you think to yourself, wait a minute. But we have studio series. Why would we need them in Legacy when we have them in studio series? Number one, I think it's fair. Because we put so much G1 stuff into studio series, however Hasbro can finagle it or excuse it, that I think it's fair. I think it's absolutely fair for a little bit of movie to creep in to the collector line. Number two, there's so much room for G1-ified movie characters. Now, I don't want to like take away their identity. I don't want to strip them of like the uniqueness of the designs. What I'd like to do is like boil those designs down into something that is just more solid, less reliant on lots of tiny little parts strewn about and just looking more, yes, traditional. The way that a lot of fans have kind of wanted the movie characters to turn out when it first came out. Now, obviously, there's plenty of movie fans that don't want them changed. Hey, guess what? You're right in the same boat with G1 fans, right? There's right in the same boat with the people who wanted Truck Not Monkey. Welcome to it. It's not a fun boat. You need to get off it immediately and just admit, sometimes you make things for people who aren't you. And in this case, yeah, I would love to see some movie designs done a little bit more solid, a little bit more traditional. I think Blackout has an absolutely great design. I think being in that movie aesthetic overcomplicates it to the point where it doesn't make for a really fun toy. I didn't like the Leader Class figure that came out. That Leader Class toy people are crying out for since 2007. The studio series finally did. I didn't like it. Didn't like it. And maybe that's just me. Maybe my copy just sucked. Either way, I would love to see this toy done in a more refined form. We did it in animated, and I thought it was great. Animated Blackout was a huge toy to be able to get your hands on. But personally, if I'm going to pick a pet favorite for this little project, it's going to be Bone Crusher. I freaking love Bone Crusher's design. These gigantic gorilla arms, these extendable, like tiny arm claw things. I do think he is super cool. And I love like the Minesweeper, like super heavy truck. It's a really cool design. One of the better ones in the movieverse. I'd love to see what you would do with it with a Generation 1 take. Maybe it might shrink the arms down a little bit, but for the most part, I think you just have just like a solid brick beast of a robot. And I'm kind of down for that. So this is just me like toying around with ideas. Legacy's done a lot to tap a lot of old Transformers series and universes that we haven't seen in a long time, but it definitely has missed a few gaps. And now that we pretty much know most of what's coming out for the entirety of the trilogy, time to start figuring out what needs to be slotted in, because after Legacy, who knows what they're going to be doing and how long it's going to be before a lot of these old characters and designs get their due again. So, that is just my thoughts for the day. What are some of the characters or universes that haven't been represented that you'd want to see in Legacy before it closes its doors? Tell me in the comments below, and I will see you next time. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.